Right. So Ben, what's up?
Nothing, man. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thanks for joining. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for accepting my invitation. So can you just introduce yourself?
It's a pleasure being here. I go by the names of Ben Matovu. I'm a Ugandan. As you can see, my flag is out there. It's a symbol of patriotism. I studied languages. I did languages at university. That is French, English, and plus other languages which are self-taught. I didn't learn them from university, but I taught myself. Italian, Arabic.
Okay.
Yes.
And Luganda.
Yes, that goes without saying. That is my identity.
Okay, so
that's my password.
Yeah, I always tell people that Ben is the person who taught me how to read books, and is a book fan, a big fan of books, and now I like reading, and I think I owe everything to you. I remember those days when you were pushing me to read this book, give me a summary of the book, and I was like, what's wrong with this guy? But now I enjoy it. It's become part of my life.
I remember that time. It was, which year was it? Was it 2015?
Yeah, 2015.
Yes, 2015. You came and you had these issues with language. It was really hard. You didn't know how to do it, and I was also going through a struggle. I was also suffering with the French. I wasn't good at the time, so I was forcing myself to read. It was very hard.
But that time I was seeing you like Molière, like Victor Hugo. Because for me, I couldn't even say a word.
I knew nothing at the time. Actually, it's right now when it's now that I feel somehow like I can really, really feel the language. But before that, I wasn't really that good. But reading really helped. And I like the fact that when you started reading, you put in a lot, even when it was hard. You put in a lot, and now look where you are.
Yeah, I think I feel comfortable with French now. Like I can discuss about any subject, which is good. But you went to Algeria and you had already learned French in Uganda, and despite that, when you went to Algeria, you still had some struggles. Why do you think there was that? That those problems, yet you had already learned French?
Well, what happened in Uganda in high school is the environment, first of all, was different. We did French in high school. And of course, I could speak something. I could really speak. When I came here, I could speak. But the problem was the environment in Uganda couldn't allow me to express myself. So most of the things I knew them in writing. So it was really hard to speak fluently because I couldn't practice the language. So when I came here, I added another factor, the environment factor. That is, the people here speak French. You can express yourself in French, and you really practice. So when I came here, it was a very big advantage because the people speak French, and then there are libraries here. You can find libraries where you find very cheap books. You can find libraries where books are free. You just need to do subscription. So all that really helped. And when I arrived, I had a friend too. And that friend told me that if you want to really master anything, if you want to master a language or anything, you have to be able to read in that language, whether it's your mother tongue. If you want to be good at it, you have to be able to read in it. So I started practicing that thing of reading in the language, and I realized that speaking a language and reading it are actually two different things.
Yeah, that's true.
Because reading it makes the language go in your imagination, whereby you can read a book in a different language, but then it still helps you imagine things. But then just speaking is different. It doesn't really you don't really go deep. Speaking is superficial, but reading goes deep into the language, and it really helps.
Yeah, but okay, I've seen some people in Algeria who learn English until they are even, they reach fluency, but they've never been out of Algeria. And Algeria is a French-speaking country, or they also speak Arabic. But for you in Uganda, you were speaking French, but you didn't reach fluency. What do you think was the problem? Because now you're in an environment where French is not being used. Then in Algeria, it's also the same scenario with English. So what was missing then?
I think what is missing. Okay, here in Algeria is a French-speaking country, but there are a lot of chances for someone to speak a language because we are here in Algeria. We are English-speaking people. We speak English as our first language. So these people always get that chance to communicate. And also the internet factor. These guys have internet, a lot of internet. It's very cheap, so they can always watch whatever they want on YouTube. They can follow any tutorials. They can follow anything on the internet at a very cheap cost. But on the other hand, in Uganda, it is different because to access YouTube, actually, it's expensive because data is really, really expensive. Yeah. So internet was one of the factor. And then another thing is Algeria is a French-speaking country, but not totally, because there are some people who speak English. There are many foreigners in Algeria from Europe, English-speaking countries from Europe, from Africa, Sub-Sahara. So they always find a chance. And also there's reading material, there are embassies.
Yes.
For America, where you can go, where people speak French. In Sub-Sahara, it's very different because we do not have these advantages. So I think that really affected me.
And
not really reach fluency.
Okay, and some people say, when you're learning a language, for example, when you go to Algeria, if you're dating someone, a girl who speaks that language, or if you're a girl, you date a guy who speaks that language, it helps you to, to master the language very fast. Do you, what's your experience with that?
Yeah, actually, I think that is the best way. That is the best way because speaking from experience, when I first arrived here, the people who really helped me really learn how to speak were the Algerian girls at the university. Like, you would have these friends, these very good friends, these their best friends, they are very good. And they had this thing whereby they were always there for you in a way that you could talk to them at any moment, they could talk to you. And most of them couldn't speak English. So they were so interested in talking to you, but in French. So you had to really make sure that you express yourself in the language.
Okay.
And the girls have this I think it's a gift whereby their voices are so clear. You can hear everything.
Okay, yes.
They are easily and more understandable than the men's deep voices, especially for a beginner.
So you need to.
So they really help. I have my friends' experiences in other countries. They always tell me that I learned this language faster because I had a girlfriend, I had a friend who was female, So I think they really play a big role in this language learning thing.
Okay. Anyway, let's switch on to let's talk about books. About reading. So what's the first book that you remember reading? The time you started reading, which book do you remember starting reading?
The first French book I read was I was in Oran at the time. It was called The Two Enemy Brothers. Okay. The Deux Frères Ennemis. The Two Enemy Brothers. It was about Algeria. So when I read it, I couldn't understand everything, but I would use a dictionary once in a while. And it was so hectic that it took me weeks to finish it. But when I finished it, I really enjoyed it because I had learned a lot.
About
and actually, after reading something, a book, you start hearing the statements, the words you read in a book. You start hearing them, people speaking them, and that gives you confidence.
Okay. And when you're reading a book, then you read a book, you find new vocabulary. How do you do to remember that vocabulary or expressions? Do you write them down, or how do you deal with that? Sometimes I read the book and then I feel like I've seen new words and stuff, but then I don't write them down. Then later on, I feel like I've forgotten the words. So I don't know, how do you deal with that?
Okay. For me, this is what I do. For me, okay. Right now it's different, but before I would underline them and then write them down and then make sure I master them. But I realized that was forcing something, like you are forcing it, because sometimes you forget them if you force them in your head. But there are some expressions I think everyone can actually relate. There are some expressions that you don't even need to memorize with any effort. They are just funny. Like you just see it and then it sits in your life. Like you think you can even use it immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And that would even be easy. There are some expressions which are useless that you will only find in books. But then there are some you use immediately after reading the book. You find someone and then you use it. Like that relate to the day-to-day life.
Okay.
So I don't underline now. I don't underline expressions in a way that you just understand it. You try to understand it. When you understand it, actually, you don't forget it. When you understand something very well, you don't forget it.
Okay. And
For
I wanted to
example,
ask, yes.
there is an expression like sasot ozio, like it is obvious. It's already bouncing in your eyes, before your eyes. It's in French.
Okay.
So when you read that one, it will be clear because it means the thing you were asking is already bouncing in your eyes, so it's obvious.
So those expressions, you cannot forget them. Okay. And is there any book that you have read multiple times and you still feel like you have to read that book again?
Balzac. There is
Balzac.
yeah, he's my favorite author. He writes books which are really, really fascinating. I like his way of using a language. Actually, I think any person who wants to master French should read Balzac because he does not stop at giving sentences, but he describes characters. He has a lot of descriptions. So that means when you read his books, you'll find a lot of adjectives, like useful adjectives, adverbs. He's so extravagant with his words, and I think that's what a language learner will need, any language learner. So when you read his book, you feel that depth of the language, and then you feel the depth of the story, whereby even when you read it again, it will be like a new book, something you've never read.
And how about, do you have your favorite English author?
My favorite English author. That one is different because it always changes. But right now, there is because right now these days I read a lot of economics, psychology. So when it comes to English authors, there's a guy called Adam Smith.
Okay.
He has written Wealth of Nations. It's a very big book, but it is so powerful. So that is nonfiction. And then for fiction, I like Graham Greene. Graham Greene is a great guy. He writes the way he writes his language, it is so economical with his words, whereby he doesn't give you the whole thing. He makes you imagine the rest. You don't really have to, he doesn't spoon feed his readers. So he's someone you have to read really carefully.
So he's not like Balzac who explains in depth.
Yes, actually they are opposites. He's the opposite of Balzac. He's nice. I like him.
Okay. So which author who is still alive that you would want to meet in person?
English or French?
Both French or English.
French, I would like to meet Amin Malouf. I don't know if you've heard of that Lebanese writer.
Yes.
Amin Malouf.
Yeah, I read his book, Les Identités Meurtrières. Yeah, I think I liked that book so much.
Yes, I just finished a book called Le Périple de Baldassare. That book is a very good book. And I read many of his books. He's a very, very nice writer. He writes so well, and is very clear.
And I think the
And then
language is not
another,
difficult.
no, it's not difficult, but it is sophisticated in its simplicity.
Okay.
You know.
Yes, yes.
And
I
then
think
for English,
yes, some is very easy, like very simple sentences, but the meaning is so deep.
it is so deep, and it is so real. You feel like this really happened. And then there is, for English, there is a lady. She's Nigerian. She's called Chimamanda. I don't know if you've heard of her.
No.
Chimamanda Ngozi.
No, I haven't heard about
Ah,
it.
she's the best. She's very good. There is most of my favorite authors are actually dead. It's so unfortunate.
Yes, yes. Like Balzac, we know Balzac, is dead long time ago. And do you have a Algerian, favorite writer?
It used to be Yasmina Khadrad, but it changed now. There's a girl. She actually started from my university. She's called Kauta Adimi. Kauta Adimi. She's Algerian, and she started from the university where I went. So she's just a new author. She's in Paris now.
Okay.
But she really writes very good stories about the Algerian society, and when you read it, especially if you've been in Algeria, you will see what she's talking about. The way the society is conservative with women and women rights. She talks about what's happening, and you can relate to what's happening. What happens in the buses when you are in public buses. She talks about all that. Funny. Yeah, avancé l'arrière. So it's funny whereby you read it while laughing, because this is what you see every day.
How about there's this guy who wrote Lufis to Pov. What's his name? I've forgotten the name.
Mulud Feraoun.
Mulud Feraoun. I think he was one of my favorite authors, in Algeria. I think he also writes very well.
Yeah, he's a very simple guy. He's a very simple guy in his writing. His writing is very, very, very nice, and he paints the real society, the real Kabili society, whereby when you read it, you'll see it's real.
It's like you're already in Tizuzu.
Yeah, some people think that he was writing his own life. He was writing stories from his own life, whereby you may think the main character it's him, because it is so honest.
Yes, that's true. And Ben, when I'm reading, sometimes I find new vocab. Do you check that the new words that you find when you're reading? You check in the dictionary.
Yeah, it depends. Well, because sometimes you don't need to really check. There are some words. I think it depends on how you feel about the word, because words can be beautiful and words can be ugly. There is a word you find and you're like, I don't think I'll need this. But then there is a word which is recurring. It comes in like on many pages. So, and the gist of the story relies on that word. So you have to look for it. But then there are some words that you will have to understand with the context. Otherwise, it will be boring to always check in the dictionary, because now it becomes studying than reading. It's more of studying than reading.
That's
You're supposed to be reading. Yeah.
That's true. Okay. In which book are you reading now?
Right now, I'm reading a book from. It's Ahmad Kuruma. Allah n'est pas obligé.
Yes. Is he the one who also wrote des indépendants? What?
Oui, le soleil des indépendances. I think every African should read that book. Allah n'est pas obligé. It says, Allah n'est pas obligé d'être juste dans toutes ces choses qui se passent ici-bas. Like, Allah or God is not obliged to be just in everything that happens down here on earth.
Okay, I think it's it resonates more with this book, Conversations with God. I think it's in the same line also.
Yes, yes. It's very humorous. It's funny because it's a young kid who is narrating. So just imagine a young kid narrating to you stories of old people.
Okay.
I
I
wish
think I would
I
love
wish
to.
I could read for your page.
Yeah, you should send me some pages so that I can also read.
Yeah, it is very fun. I think every African should read it because it is very informative. It talks about Sierra Leone, Liberia, Cote d'Ivoire, Libya. It talks about Africa, what is really happening in Africa right now. It talks about dictatorship. It talks about natural resources and how they are exploited. It talks about child soldiers and war. It's really a very, very, very complex book whereby it talks about a lot of bad things that are happening that we are not aware of.
Okay, I know you have also read this book, Shaking Hands with the Devil. Do you have anything to say about that book?
The failure of humanity.
Yes. Maybe
Oh,
just
that
just
book.
just, just, just a little bit of summary, yeah, like a brief summary of the book.
That book, when you read that book, it's like a very, very long journey, and it really takes you into what really happened in Rwanda in 1994 during the genocide. A lot of people died because of tribalism.
Yeah,
Imagine in your country, you're killing your fellow tribe, the tribe next to you, because you think they don't deserve to live. Over 800,000 people died in 100 days without a gun, but cutting their heads off.
that's gruesome.
And what happened was the international community was quiet during this time. Nothing was happening. Nobody was talking. It was like nobody noticed what was happening. They left these people to themselves to kill themselves until death. It was so, so gruesome. And when you read it at some point, you can even cry because it's really bad, like indiscriminative murdering, assassinations. It was so, so bad.
Yeah, for me, I never heard about the genocide in Rwanda until I was in Algeria. I think I was just listening to Paul Kagame when he was, talking to a journalist. And I think that's the only time when I heard about the genocide. I never heard about it. It's like in Africa, we don't even talk about that genocide at all.
Yes, because of the system. When you go back to your high school, you see the things they were teaching you in history. They had nothing to do with your history. They are different because we studied things like the French revolutions,
Yes, I also
the
did.
the treaties, and all that things you've never heard about, and you had to put in your head. Right now, I know about the French Revolution, but I don't need it.
Yeah, that's true. They're talking about the guillotine, what, like how they executed people and what, the streets of Marseille. And I asked myself, like, why do we have to learn about these things? Yet I don't know anything about Zambian history, and they're my neighbors. So I think somehow the education system is not offering us what we really need to know.
It's really working hard to not offer us what we really need, because even when you go back home, libraries are very scarce. When you go to libraries that are available, books are very expensive. You cannot afford them considering your salary. They are very expensive, and so you're limited. You have to go with the system, the education system,
So do
and
you
then
think,
learn what.
yeah,
Hmm?
do you think this book, Animal Farm, also reflects what is happening in Africa?
Very much.
Very
Very,
much.
very much. Very much. Because the characters there, they reflect what's happening. I think you've read the book. You know the character of Napoleon.
Yes, yes, yes. I've read the book, and I,
You know the
I
big Napoleon. The way the guy painted Napoleon was a pig. And you know you know pigs, they are the dirtiest creatures that we know. They are
yes.
very dirty. And these were the people who were ruling other animals. So imagine a, one of the dirtiest animals on earth ruling over other clean animals. what will happen? Do you think it will be cleanliness? It will be dirty.
There'll be chaos. Huh?
There will be chaos. There will be slavery. Like, that book is so powerful. It talks about many things, but of course, George Orwell, when he was writing that book, at the time it was hard to be direct, so he had to use a lot of nuances to hide the meaning, so that the message wasn't direct.
Yeah.
So he had to use characters of animals, whereby if a kid reads this story, because I read this book when I was in high school, they could understand it as an animal story. But as you grow up, you start seeing it as something political.
Yeah, because I think the
But
book was banned for some time. I don't know if now it's allowed to be sold in libraries, but I heard for some time the book was banned. Because in European countries there was dictatorship and stuff. So
I hope it's not banned now, because I think they need to read it to understand.
that's true.
They
And
need
so,
to read it to understand.
how many books do you read in a month?
It depends. Well, it depends, but I make sure that every month, at least I've read 7.
7 books in a month.
Yes, at least I've read 7.
You're a big reader, Ben.
At least.
And if you are to estimate the total number of books that you have read so far, I think then how many do you think how many books you have read so far?
I cannot tell. There are very many. There are very many, because reading is a very big journey, whereby from the start to where I am now, it's very hard to estimate, because at first it was boring. When you're starting to read, it's so boring.
Yes.
But if I can count from when I started really enjoying it to now, I think it's quite a lot of books. And the more you read, the more you start enjoying them, you feel like you need more.
Yeah,
You
that's
just
true.
can't stop, because it is something you really need. It's like food. Like, you have to read and then understand, because reading helps you understand yourself and understand how things work.
That's true.
How everything works.
For me now, I'm reading The Secret, and I still have a bunch of books that I haven't read, and I feel like I'm behind time. I really have to read those books, but you have a lot of some commitments, but reading is really a very good thing, and you feel like you need to read. Just like that book that you sent to me, Shaking Hands with the Devil. I haven't read it, but I feel like I really have to read it.
It's a very nice school. So how is it with the Spanish? I heard you're doing the Spanish thing. How is it going?
Yeah, it's going well. I've read 2 books in Spanish, written by Louis Hay. Growth books, self-development. That's so yeah. They are easier to read because they are in. She writes in present simple, so you don't have to worry about future. About past simple. So those ones are good when you want to learn a language. Like now, I'm reading The Secret in Portuguese, or Segredo. So it's also helping me, to learn. Because for me, I believe, reading and listening are the best ways to learn a language. So yeah, that's how I'm. So I feel like now I feel more comfortable with Spanish than Portuguese. But sometimes I mix the languages, But some are.
That's very good, man. I'm proud of you. You've done all that in a very short space of time.
Yeah, that's true. I think this was faster than how I learned French, because I was using the traditional way, which really doesn't bring results. So yeah, I think I just have a few questions to ask before we round off the interview. In Africa we don't read. When you forced me to read in 2015, I think I was 20 years old. Imagine you are 20 years old and you haven't read any book in your life. And you are telling me that you read Animal Farm when you were in high school, And then, so my question, because when I went to Algeria, I think I had only read a book. I think it was like a 10-page book, and I only read 1 page. That's what I remember. Like, I only read 1 page, and then I left the book. So what should parents do to ensure that their children read? Because for me, I've seen the benefits of reading. So what should parents do to ensure that people read? And what should the government do to ensure that the citizens start reading? Because citizens that who read, they are informed. So what should they do? Parents and the government.
For me, I think we tend to give most of the responsibility to the government.
Yes.
Like we always have this tendency of thinking that the government will take care of us. It will make our system better. It will make our lives better. But I think actually it is individual effort, whereby if you really want to be better, you shouldn't expect from the government. The government should find you somewhere when you've done something for yourself. Because even if the government is to try so hard to help people, the first people who will be helped first will be the rich people. So the same thing comes back to the lowest level of households, whereby parents should take up the responsibility for their kids because these are their kids. Home should be the first school, and home should always be the school. It should be the place where you always go to learn something that they did not teach you in school. For example, when I go to see my grandfather in the village, he always teaches me things that I don't know of, things which are very important. So people should start looking at home as a school. And in a school, there must be literacy, not only spoken wisdom, but also literacy, whereby somebody has to really learn about life through literature and through listening. So it is a very big responsibility. And lately, I don't see it in our countries. They don't really encourage that. And I see it's a very big mistake, because without that, we cannot go anywhere. Education is very, very important. It's the key. There is a linguist called Noam Chomsky. He's a linguist.
Yes, Chomsky. Yes, I know Chomsky.
Yeah, he did linguistics, but then he taught himself over 10 languages.
Yes.
And then he taught himself, there is this language can be looked at as mathematics because it has many principles like math. So he taught himself a lot of mathematical principles that at some point Harvard University called him to present his mathematical theory. He had to present it to people. And then all that was self-taught. He taught himself. So when parents teach us these things from home, there's a way we learn how to depend on ourselves. You depend on yourself for success. Whatever thing you do, you're responsible for the outcomes. Any success, it's yours. Otherwise, if the government does something, it will be an added advantage. But most of your success, it's you. So I think it's very important for parents to teach kids to read, because that's the only way they will learn about life. And that's the only way they will make the right decisions in life. Because school only teaches the effects of the French Revolution, and we don't need that.
That's true. That's true. Ben, if there was one thing that you would change about the education system in African countries, what would you change?
Oh, thank you for this question. That's a very good question. I've always wanted to talk about this, and I think this is the first time I'm going to say this. The first thing I would change about the education system is I would make sure that whatever a student or a kid follows his or her inclinations.
Okay.
In any form, if this kid is so interested in languages, then he goes there. Like I want an education system whereby people, they don't decide for the kid. You have to follow the kid what they want. If it's music, you let him learn music, because that's where the genius is. When you let somebody do what they really want, they will do it to their highest capacity. They will do it to perfection, and it will come naturally because it's already in them. It's what they want. But you find somebody is studying to become a doctor, but they hate it every day. Yes. They hate books. But imagine somebody who wants to do music, and actually you give them music, tell them you're going to study music. They will love what they're doing from day one up to the last day.
Yes, that's very important. I think, when I was in Italy, I talked to this girl from Israel. Israel has, some of the best, the best thinkers, the think tanks. And I asked her, like, why is that, in Israel, we always find people who are genius? And she was like, when I come back from school, my mom or my dad, the first question they ask me there is, which question did you ask to your teachers? They don't ask me, what did you learn? They ask me, which question did you ask to the teachers, So I think allowing students to ask questions, it's a very good thing because that's how you learn. Okay, Ben, we are about to round off, and here there are people who are going to watch the interview and they would like to start reading. They've never read a book in their life. So the question would be like, where do I start to read books, and what are some of the recommendations that you would want to give to them?
Okay. That's also a very good question. For somebody who wants to start, I would suggest that they start with what they want. Like they start with what they want. They shouldn't actually look for recommendations from somebody who has read something that is nice. They should start with what they want. What are they interested in? Are you interested in politics? Are you interested in science? Are you interested in music? Are you interested in languages? Whatever you want. And then you start with that. You start by reading from what you want. Like you start with what you're interested in. Then you learn about that. And then, of course, naturally with time, you feel like you want to add more. You spread your wings to learn more about other things. But I suggest that they will start with something small, because big books are discouraging. They're discouraging. Start with something small but interesting to them. For example, I used to like romantic stuff, like relationship.
I know you read 50 Shades of Grey.
Yes, 50 Shades of Grey. I read all those books in 1 week. 4 books. So you start with what's interesting, whereby you will have maximum attention. You'll be reading word by word and enjoying it. Otherwise, if I tell you to read a book about relativity of Albert Einstein, you'll read 1 page and throw it away.
Yes, because you're not interested in that stuff.
Yeah, it is interesting. It's starting with your curiosity. Actually, it's curiosity. What are you curious about? Like somebody who wants to start reading, they should ask themselves, what am I curious to know? Is there something I'm really curious to know, but I haven't yet started? Then if they get that, then they start adventuring into finding that thing, to find the answers to that. When they find answers, curiosity always builds. You get more curious about other things. So I think that's where the journey starts.
That's true. Thank you, Ben, for joining me, and thanks for the insights. I think I've learned a lot of things. I'm seeing that you are still growing from the time we separated. That was last year, and now I see a very big difference.
Yeah, this year, not last year. This year.
Yeah, I think the knowledge is still it's keeping on coming. So I'm impressed.
Yeah, right.
I'm impressed. So yeah, we'll talk again. Maybe next time we're gonna have another one in French. Maybe you can say something in French, before you go.
Do I have to say something in French?
Yeah.
D'accord. Je vous remercie, messieurs, de m'avoir invité ici sur votre page YouTube. Ça fait plaisir de partager mes opinions avec tes adhérents, et j'espère que dans bientôt, on va en parler plus.
Oui, merci beaucoup, Ben. Alors, on se verra plus tard. On va parler à plus tard. Peut-être un jour, on va avoir une autre conversation en italien, parce que tu parles italien, ou je ne sais pas, et en français.
Oui, j'y tiens beaucoup. J'espère qu'on aura notre rencontre où on parlera la langue italienne. On peut même parler espagnol. Je ne maîtrise pas espagnol, mais je vais me débrouiller. Parce que je comprends. D'accord. Je vous en prie. Thanks for having me.
Okay, you're
Thanks
welcome.
for having me, sir. See you next time. We shall keep in touch.
Keep in touch. Thank you so much.
Okay, okay.
Bye-bye. Okay, so this was an interview with Ben Matov, who is in Algeria. I think you are going to learn a lot of things from this interview. Thank you so much for sharing the video. Thank you so much for watching and commenting. You can write some of the best books that you have read. You can recommend those books in the comment section, so that I can also go and have a look at those books. Thank you so much.